Meeting to order, Ag and Rural Affairs. We'd like to approval of the minutes from our last meeting on October, our last meeting that we had
So moved.
on the 21st of September.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor indicating approval of the minutes of September 21, 2021, signify.
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. Next agenda is public appearances. We've got a few gentlemen here that we'd like to get to know a little bit better. They're very important to the city as well as to the ag area, rural area. And I'd like to have Jim Wheeler come up and talk to us a little bit. Jim is our alter in District 4, which is the ag area, and he took Tom Clowder's place. So, hey, welcome, Jim. We appreciate you being here, and tell us a little something about yourself, and also if you've got any questions for us, what we do, what we don't do, whatever. We're sure glad to visit with you about it.
Well, thank you. My name is Jim Wheeler. I'm the District 4 Alder. I've been a resident of Fitchburg since 1999. I am retired from the Madison Police Department after 27 and a half years. So, and also part of various things to keep busy. So it was an honor to be actually elected to the city council, you know, and hopefully I can make a difference in improving the city and keep it going forward. I am married. I have two sons. One graduated from the UW in computer science. He's living in Milwaukee and working from home. Then I have another son who's a sophomore at the UW. And I'm proud of both of my boys. You know, he's the equipment manager for the Badger football team. So, you know, he's a great kid. So, like I said, it's been an honor to serve the city of Fitchburg. I originally grew up in Philadelphia, and I came here back in 1982 to go to school, and decided to stay after going into the Army. I graduated and went into the Army for 3 years and then came back and joined the department. So Wisconsin is a great state, and I'm glad I came back and stayed.
Yeah, we're glad to have you in Fitchburg, no question about it. And I've got a question for you. You're representing District 4, which is the district that we're all interested in, along with Randy.
Yes.
And what do you see in District 4 as some of the issues that are coming before you?
Well, I think one of the things, especially in a rural area, is broadband. Been doing a little bit of research on that as far as broadband is concerned, and realized that, you know, for some of the, you know, especially the farmers and people who have businesses in rural areas, that broadband is a multiplier as far as, you know, getting products out, you know, getting on the internet, but it has to be high speed. We can't have, you know, slow dial-up or, you know, things where you don't, you know, get a proper internet connection. It got to be pretty secure and also pretty
What's up,
quick.
Doc?
Hey, you been playing video games all?
Okay.
As you were saying.
Right. And then also, you know, really interested in, you know, I like the businesses that are coming to Fitchburg, the growth of the business sector in Fitchburg. I think is really important that we keep it, you know, keep that going. Also want to keep costs, you know, in line, because we do have people who I want to see stay in their homes. So I don't like to see taxes, you know, go up too high. So I really want to keep an eye on that.
Do you, anybody else have any questions at all for Jim? Randy and Jim both, of course, represent us. And, you know, if we have issues, either one of these are the people to go to. And do you have any questions for us? Or what we're doing, or what our mission is? Any questions on that?
Well, I know who to call.
Okay. Randy, do you have something?
Do I have something to add? No, I think, Jim, you've been on board now for about 6 months or somewhere in there, and I think you and I have had a great working relationship, and I look forward to working with you on ag and rural. Maybe not as a, you know, where you haven't been slotted as a committee member, but you and I work so closely on so many different other issues, and I look forward to that continuing even with the Rural and Ag Affairs Committee.
Very good,
Yeah.
very good. We will be having, we're planning some events in January. We're planning one large event, and we certainly would like to have you make sure that you get it on your calendar to attend. And it will be a meeting what we're trying to put together of all the landowners.
Okay.
And it would be a chance for them to meet you personally. So when we get everything set up on that, why we certainly want you to be aware of it.
Okay. Well, you mentioned landowners, so what are some of the issues that landowners are facing right now?
Well, one of them we've hashed around pretty big is the taxes. And I'm sure you've probably heard of that already, but that continues to be an issue. There's stormwater issues,
Yes.
the Lake Barney issues that are out here right now, and those are just some of them. Maybe you've got something.
Yeah, thanks for coming in tonight. I spoke with you before or after you were elected. Anyway, Roger mentioned stormwater. There's 4 stormwater areas, and some of it's urban, some of it affects the rural area too. The one issue that I've it's been near and dear to me, we have on Burn Road, and being in the police force, I'm sure you can relate to this. Burn Road has a rail crossing that has a yield sign. It's the only crossing in the city of Fitchburg that does not have a stop sign. And I've been trying for years to get that changed to a stop sign. The railroad doesn't care as long as it's more inclusive than the yield sign, which if it were a stop sign, they would have input on to making it a yield sign, but yield to stop, they have no problem with that at all. And but the council, I brought it to the Public Works and to the council, and I can't get anywhere with it at all. No one seems interested.
Okay.
We took a petition in, quite a few years back to ask for that, and the Public Works Director at that time did not present it to anybody.
Okay.
So that's one issue. One of the biggies is, you know, a 40-acre subdivision has many votes. A 40-acre farm field has maybe 1 or 2. So, if, you know, there's a real disparity.
Right.
I was on the town board when we became a city. And so that the disparity in that has always been a concern. So I hope that both of our elected officials from the rural area respect that, because we are few in numbers, but we control a lot of land.
Correct.
So anyway, that's all I have. Amy?
Anybody else?
Amy?
Amy?
Thanks for coming to visit with us. It's nice to meet you. So thank you for your time. And I just think like a big takeaway and something to, I think, of most value to the city of Fitchburg is I think the rural area is just forgotten about a lot, just across the board. Like I heard you say like development and growth and all of that is really important and really great. But if you drive out there just a little ways, we have a very, very rich landscape and people like to drive out and enjoy it, right? Ride their bikes and look at the pretty trees and horses and cattle when they drive by, but maybe don't value the rural part of Fitchburg as much.
Okay.
So I think across the board, it's nice to drive by and it's really pretty, but we're important too. And like Mark said, there's 40 votes in a big subdivision, but 1 or 2 per our 40 acres of land. So our voice isn't always as loud, but we're very much here, and the rural area of Fitchburg is near and dear to all of our hearts here at the table, I think. I'm a fourth or fifth generation on our farm.
Oh, wow, congratulations.
Thank you. Happy to be here. So thank you for coming.
No, no problem.
And Amy is a little modest there also. Her great-grandma was town clerk for a lot of years.
You mentioned, the disparity in population and vote. Randy, you've been on the committee where we are reassessing our districts and everything. What can you tell us about that?
Well, redistricting took place about 2 weeks ago. I want to say October 4th. Sounds correct anyway. I'm getting a nod of the head here, yes. And we met here in Chambers and we went through a number of scenarios. Wade Thompson was our support person, and he put together several maps as options. The committee worked through those options, and we came up with some additional options on top of the original options, and based on all of that information, census tracts, trying to maintain the aldermanic districts, trying to keep that equal balance of citizens within a district. Lots of good discussion, and we finally came up with an option, and I believe it is out there, and it will be presented to council November 2nd, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
So,
Sure, go ahead.
Yep. No, at the end of the meeting,
At the
doing announcements, yep.
Yeah.
We'll provide an update, yep.
so it was a good process, and lots of discussions, but we came to a conclusion, and there will be a little bit of change to District 4. 3 is moving further east to the boundary, and District 4 is shrinking a little bit to the north. Instead of going all the way up to the northern part, it's coming down. And I think, Roger, you're still within my district. And Jim's. You and I had that conversation, but I had to go back and look at that map. I would want to lose you, so.
Okay. Well, if there's any other comments at this time, Jim, thank you so much for coming. And we look forward to interacting with you on issues, and certainly invite you to any of our meetings at any time.
I'm just a phone call away.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We have another person we'd like to learn a little bit about, our city administrator, Chad Beckline, and you have been on board for how long now?
It feels like 3 years, but it's been about 3 months. So, no, in all seriousness, it has July 12th, I started in the role of city administrator. And I'm new to the role, but not new to the city. I've been with the city for over 22 years, served in the police department in a variety of ranks, and most recently served as a police chief for about 3.5 years before becoming city administrator. So I hope that gives me a unique experience as I move into this role and learn more about city operations and help facilitate the work that our team here at the City Hall does in conjunction with our elected officials and community members. And I think that knowledge of the city will only serve me well. I've got a lot of connections and familiar faces that I'm aware of that I can certainly utilize to help facilitate work. So looking forward to the new challenge and learning very quickly, as I anticipated, that whole lot goes into city operations, and it's been very informative.
Chad, you say you were on the police force?
Yep.
You know, as we look at District 4, the ag area,
Mm-hmm.
landowner area, how is our police protection split up between the high density area that we have to the north and then, of course, the rural area?
Sure.
And how does a police force identify how much equipment, manpower is set up for the area we're interested in?
Yeah, so a lot of factors obviously go into police staffing. I don't want to overstep my bounds with the new police chief having started this week, Chief Morales, but I can at least talk a bit historical and in some general terms. But obviously geography does factor into how we look to staff. Population, we look at that. We also look at the calls for service that our police officers are going on and how labor intensive those calls for service are. So one thing that we've historically tried to do is ensure that there is presence and visibility as much as possible based upon the resources that we have available in all areas of our community, to include the rural areas. I have often taken the stance that, everybody pays taxes in the city of Fitchburg and also deserves to see their city services at work, to include public safety services. So it's always been a goal of mine when I was in the police department that we were visible in our rural areas. I can assure you we're probably not as visible as we want to be, and probably certainly not as visible as you would like us to be in the rural areas. Clearly there are higher call volumes in more populated, more densely populated areas of the city. So of course that's where a lot of the resources are more visible. It just cuts down on the response time, of course, and those sorts of things. But by all means, I would encourage, if you have any sort of public safety concerns, feel free to reach out to either Alders, Udell, or Wheeler, myself, or any of our public safety chiefs. Police Chief Morales, Fire Chief Povermacher, to talk about any of those public safety questions or concerns or feedback you might want to share.
Yes.
Okay, so
Amy?
more on that line,
Yeah.
Chad, I have a question for you. So is there so I'll tell you where this question comes from. I don't ever see a Fitchburg cop on my road. I live on Keene Road, right? It's just not a thing. One time I had a call, and my husband beat him there from the interstate. So I have never addressed it. It's something I probably need to going forward. But I'm wondering, is there an officer assigned to the rural area every night? Like, you have sectors. My husband's a state trooper, so I understand sectors and assignments and things like that. Is there someone assigned to the rural area every night? Is there? Okay.
Yep, absolutely. And
They're just being pulled.
yeah, I mean that's the challenge. I mean, you may have anywhere from 4 officers on duty to maybe as many as 6 or 7. So it obviously depends upon what activity is taking place at any given time. But yeah, the city is broken up into districts and sectors, and every sector, there's the 2 districts and then 2 sectors within each district. So we'll have at least 1 officer assigned to each sector of the city. But obviously, if there's a 2-officer or more officer call in a different area of the city, we're going to have to dispatch those officers or pull those from their assigned sectors. So yeah, absolutely, there's someone assigned to all areas of the city every day on all shifts. So they've probably been by Keene Road. You just might have maybe
riding
been
a
sleeping,
horse.
hopefully,
Maybe I was
or
sleeping,
somewhere where you
yes.
didn't happen to catch them going by. But yeah, it does always seem at times that they're not as visible as we might hope.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for answering that.
Yeah, sure.
Randy, you have anything, or?
No, I don't believe so. We have a good working relationship, the 2 of us. We just met for an hour prior to this meeting and discussed a number of issues. So I'm pleased Chad is on board as the city administrator. So I have no questions for him at this time. Yeah.
Mark? Good. Well, thanks, Chad. We
Yeah.
look forward to seeing how things go.
Absolutely, and by all means, if there's anything that I can do to help you folks as either residents or as committee members, be sure to reach out. And I do also want to thank you all for your service on this committee, and you know, that can often be a thankless job serving on any sort of city, commission, committee, board, or council, and you know, we're glad to have folks like you who are willing to volunteer for those things and give back to the community, so thank you very much.
Thank you for your
Thank
many
you.
years.
Do we have anybody else for a public appearance that would like to speak? We have one.
Sir, I believe you want to speak on agenda. Yes. 5A, so you can give that to Roger, and then when we get to that item, we'll call you out.
Oh, thank you.
So that's for 5A, Roger.
Okay. Any other issues at this time? We'll go on into our agenda items then. Our first part of the agenda item is a conditional use permit request that we have from Mary Ann McKenzie. And do you want to talk on this?
I can provide a staff report first, or if you want to hear from the applicant first,
Well,
whatever.
Why don't we hear from the applicant so that we can do this? Mark Wilkinson?
Rosinski.
Excuse me.
Good shot at it, though. Good Irish name, right?
Yeah, that's good. I'm with you. Let's go.
Hi, I'm Mark Rosinski. I'm the events coordinator at Four Winds Farm, Fitchburg. Marianne, unfortunately, could not make it today. She is, right now, she is with a vet and her horse, so she apologizes, but she wishes she could be here. I'm here to address one of the issues is the lights. I just wanted to update you that our lighting person from Hill Electric, Aaron, is working with the manufacturer and getting those lights changed out. There was an issue about them being able to, oh boy, what was it? Getting cut off or, let me see, sorry. Yes. So when the property was first purchased 5 years ago, the barn wasn't renovated, so the lighting that was put in was just for agricultural use. Now that we're being rezoned for the conditional use permit, we are getting those lights changed. So they did tell us that they would be done hopefully next week, and we will get you all that information when it is.
So exactly what was the lighting issue? I guess I wasn't aware of.
It needed to be full cutoff or dark sky compliant. So what we did is we sent them the spec sheets. We sent Lisa the spec sheets, and apparently that is not one of the features of the outdoor lighting that is outside in the parking lot, which is nearest the road. So we have to get those changed out.
Oh, I see.
And again, 5 years ago or 6 years ago when she purchased this property, it was just for agricultural use. So
Okay. So you had like a yard light out there?
yes.
Okay. Well, thanks.
Yep.
Anybody have any questions at all for Mark? Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Mark, you want to hang out there just in case we have more questions as the conversation evolves?
Sure.
Perfect.
Wade, would you like to give us a staff report on this?
Sure. So I think folks are familiar with the Mary Ann McKenzie property, a barn that was retrofitted some years ago to host agricultural entertainment events. If folks also remember, we did recently update our zoning code to allow for what we call rural event venues. So basically, facilities that can host non-agricultural gatherings, things like corporate events, weddings, birthday parties, that sort of thing. So we did get that policy approved a couple months ago at council, due to this committee's work. So this is the first proposal that comes under that zoning ordinance change that essentially expands the use of this facility to non-agricultural entertainment events. So I want to be clear that the site plan isn't changing. There's no new construction. Simply, all we are doing with this conditional use permit is allowing for those non-agricultural entertainment events. And as the gentleman mentioned, there's been some lighting issues that have been addressed. I do want to point out that staff is recommending approval of this conditional use permit with a few conditions. I have it up on your screen there. One important condition is the applicant shall record a deed restriction on the property, which is again 3 acres that holds the barn site. And that deed restriction basically says that the only permitted or conditional use allowed will be a rural event venue or another use that's allowed in the Ag Small District. So what we're preventing here is that slippery slope of a rural event venue today and automotive garage tomorrow, a car repair shop tomorrow. So just making sure that whatever happens as ownership changes with this property, that the use shall remain consistent with the Ag Small District. Similarly, if folks remember, as part of this permitting process, we had a long list of conditions, all sorts of things that they had to meet to be allowed to have this type of use. So the deed restriction was one condition. Another condition was this idea of a buffer. Basically, we said around the property there shall be a 200-foot buffer, and that was really to protect kind of the like Amy was talking about, the rural aesthetic, making sure that if these facilities did have some sort of commercial look to them, there was a buffer of native plants or landscaping. So again, in the conditional use, that was identified as 200 feet on all sides. If folks remember, we did talk about that being a waivable requirement. So the applicant is requesting waiver of that 200-foot buffer for this proposal, and I can explain why they're requesting that. And then I guess the third condition would be the lighting, as the gentleman mentioned, making sure it's consistent with our ordinance. We use the terms full cutoff or dark sky compliant. So again, there's a lot of stuff in your packet. I know it's probably a little bit confusing, but a lot of that was lighting stuff that, again, the gentleman mentioned they are addressing. But I do want to be clear that the site plan is not changing. Some of that information that was in there regarding a site plan was older stuff when they got their initial approval. So again, really today the issue is expanding uses of the property to allow for non-agricultural entertainment events. So with that, I can certainly take any questions or comments the committee might have.
You mentioned the waiver that you were talking about.
Yep.
What did we run up against there?
So I'm looking at the staff report. Bear with me. So I'm on page 8 of the packet, staff report. Second paragraph under staff evaluation, basically we say there should be a 200-foot buffer, but we can waive it at the discretion of this committee and the Park Commission. So basically, let's see here. So there are no rural uses adjacent to the rural event property, so we don't really need, that visual buffer isn't really necessary. We'd just be buffering it against, vacant land, so to speak. I believe the property is also fairly close to the road, which might limit that buffering capability. I don't know if you discussed any of that with Lisa, if you have any further clarification on waiver of that buffer requirement.
No, I haven't had talked to Lisa about that.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Roger?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wade, the 200-foot wouldn't work on the east side, which is the Fish Hatcher Road side.
Yeah, and I was trying to find a good map here. Maybe we can.
It's tight to the road and it's fairly close. So I don't see that as an issue.
Yep.
And that is in the McKenzie ownership to the west, to the north and to the south, to the north and south. So I don't see any problem with that waiver. If it did change hands, then that might be a factor at some time in the future.
Right. I do have a map up there if folks need some reference points. And again, just because this is a conditional use permit, a CUP, which would require, obviously, an approval from this commission or this committee, and as well as our plan commission. And again, various conditions on the use of this property.
Okay.
Ready for a motion?
Mark, do you have any questions at all?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions on it? Could I hear a motion to handle this?
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit waiver.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
And just to clarify, not just the waiver, but the entirety of the CUP as presented by staff?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. With that included?
Yep, you bet.
Yes. Hearing no further discussions, all those in favor of approving conditional use permit request CU 2410-21, signify.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Mark, are you going to be around for a while?
I can be, yes.
Yeah, we want to talk to you about something we're working on that might involve your property there.
Absolutely. I'll stick around.
All positive.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item, of course, is a review on the broadband. As you know, we've been working on a broadband, and I guess we'd let Randy give us an update on that. Both Randy and Wade have been working on this with the committee. So if you could give us something on that, Randy, it'd be great.
Sure. I mean, you don't, Roger's been working just as along with myself and Wade, so I don't want to make sure credit is given where due. So at this point, I don't think we have any further updates. I think maybe last time I reported out, or at least I reported out to council, that the surveys came back, the data is being recorded, mapped, and we met with Wade, the city staff, and a number of other city staff, and we did review some of the data at this point. However, there was some data that had not been mapped out, and I guess we went back to Wade and wanted to see that information complete. The maps at this point look great in the sense of the information that's coming back. Look great in that it's telling us where internet exists and where it doesn't exist. And Amy, it's certainly down in your area, there is nothing. But I think once Wade completes his exercise, it'll give us even a clearer picture as to what we need to do and what the next steps are. Next steps being, do we work with somebody to wire out the entire rural area to provide internet and something that actually has bandwidth, or do we take it the last few miles? So those are a lot of questions that we need to ask yet. So, Roger, do you want to add anything further? I know you're working on something on the side as well, and some important component.
What I did want to mention too, we've all read the headlines in the paper here recently where there's millions of dollars being directed towards this type of project, and we're certainly wanting to get in line on that. As Randy says, we've got a lot of hurdles to jump yet, but we're moving ahead on it. I did reach out to a couple people that did not turn in the survey, so the question is why. And quite frankly, it was kind of positive on their behalf, is that they felt that the internet service they were getting now was sufficient, which was kind of interesting. So they said, well, I'm okay with it. I'm not going to waste my time on sending in a survey. Now, what kind of a number you can put on that, or a percentage out there that falls into that category, would just be a wild guess. But with those very limited people that I contacted, which is just a couple, which is very limited, it told me that there might be some other out there that are feeling the same way. And so we've got to take that into consideration somewhat. But other than that, why, I think we're just moving ahead. Like to see it go faster, but there are lots of parts to this puzzle that we're working on.
Roger, could I piggyback on that?
Sure.
And if folks, if you want to look up on the screen, it's in your packet as well, and I don't think the majority of this committee has seen these maps yet. So these are the maps that Randy alluded to. We put together 3 maps, and this is based on survey results. And they might be more easily viewable in your packet, but I'll try to decipher them here for you. So 3 maps. The first is download speed. And what we did is we color-coded survey responses. We got about 300 plus survey responses. As Randy mentioned, we got a few surveys in late, so I haven't yet been able to map those. But I don't think the map picture will change much with those additional surveys. And we essentially categorized download speed. So 3 categories. And this is, I'm not a techie guy, but is it millibytes per second or megabytes per second? So 25 or greater, 24.9 to 15, and then 14.9 or less. So 25 or greater, green, 24.9 to 15, yellow, and then 14.9 or less, red. And these categories were based on discussions with our IT director in terms of what's, decent speed, fair speed, and then poor speed for download. So I think, big picture, we're seeing a lot of what I would call decent download speeds in terms of folks that respond to the survey. So that's what you see there in green, and then again, kind of the middle of the road speed is yellow, and then kind of the slower speeds are red. And then the second map we created was upload speed. So probably a similar picture, again, kind of a stoplight scenario of green, yellow, and red. Green being best, red being worst. Again, came up with some category parameters based on discussions with our IT director. So again, I think a similar picture, majority of greens, and then a scattering of yellow and reds. And then the third map is provider. And again, kind of a green, yellow, red. And I want to point out these colors don't indicate quality of service. I just wanted to be consistent with the color scheme. So green was the majority of the provider that provided the most access out there. That's Charter Spectrum. AT&T has kind of a scattering as well. They're in the yellow. And then Frontier is just a few red dots there. So again, these are kind of the 3 maps that we think paint a pretty good picture of rural broadband in Fitchburg. As Randy mentioned, I will finish this mapping work in the next couple of weeks, and then at our next meeting, I can come back and present the final product. But I think this again will really be, in my opinion, kind of the dictate of what comes next with the city's efforts on this, because I think this does paint a pretty good picture. So with that, I can answer any questions or comments the committee might have.
I see that Scott is online. Scott, have you got any questions on this? I know you've had an area that you've been concerned with at one time.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. It's just, what jumps out at me is all these clusters are little housing developments where charter or the larger companies are going to offer service, whereas us in the rural area are handcuffed, if you will, with options for internet service. That's why, I think Frontier is about the only one that is out where we are if we wanted to go over the air internet, which is even slower. So I guess, it's business, so nobody's going to invest in anything that doesn't make them a lot of money. So
you're absolutely right, Scott. That's one thing that fortunately or unfortunately we've got to recognize is that when you put a provider out there, they want to perform services where they can get a number of customers, and that in turn becomes a dollars and cents thing for us. And for us, it means that it takes quite a bit of square miles or to get what you can get in a subdivision. And there's where our challenge is in Fitchburg, is to understand their economics and hope we can work into it. Thanks, Scott.
And one other point, I think we sent out 900 plus surveys and we got 300 back. So a 33% response rate is actually really good for a survey. So again, I think this paints a pretty good picture in our rural area.
Okay, anything else on this, Wade?
Nope, so I'll complete the mapping, come back next month with a final product, and then we can go from there.
Okay. Okay, anything else? Anybody else have any thoughts on this? Okay, good. Good. Yeah, it's a tough project, that's for sure. Thank you, Wade. Let me get back to my next thing, if I can never get back to it.
It's unfortunate. The original cable provider agreed to put money in to cover the whole city, and had they survived, we would be all covered now, but that did not prevail.
Yeah. Okay. Come on up. I can't get it up, okay. The next thing we have on the agenda is the annual committee listening session. And this is where we wanted to mention something, Mark, that you might be interested in hearing about. This thing is still on target, and it's on target for January. And boy, as we get into issues within the city, it becomes even more and more important that we put this together. We've had an approval to have it where we've had it before on the Durford farm. They have a facility that is but we've been thinking about maybe an alternate facility, and Mark, that's where it comes into play. The committee we haven't talked about this, but I wanted to bring it up. I would, for one, and this committee thinks that would be an outstanding venue to have this there. It's
I'm going to second that.
Yeah, I mean, we're all driving by, and if we haven't had the opportunity to stop in or whatnot, this would be a great thing for the rural landowners. I'm sure they would appreciate if we could work on something like that with Mary and you. So we would be approaching you on that, Mark, and I just think it would be outstanding, because we can all be very proud of what they have done there in the rural area. I mean, that is without a doubt, they've set the bar very, very high, and that's what we want. So we'll be bringing that up. Any discussion on that subject?
Should we give an overview of what we do during a listening session?
Yeah, it's what would visualize is kind of twofold. In the past, we have we've held a meeting type there, and then we adjourned in that, and have gone into like a public session to where we have had the mayor and the alders speak. The last one I think we had was there was an election, so they're coming up. So that was very, very important. So I think Wade, if I recall, that was kind of the way we've done it in the past, and I don't see any reason why we wouldn't do that. Without a doubt, I've already mentioned it to the mayor about attending, and of course Randy and Jim definitely would be there. And if, Chad, if you wanted to attend, would certainly be welcome. This is an opportunity where people really don't get into City Hall or get involved outside. They're very busy in the rural area, and this is a chance for them to find out exactly what's going on north of this area, of the rural area. So that's generally the agenda. It's sort of a state of the city type of get-together.
I just thought it would be nice to give him an idea of what we'd be coming at him with.
Oh, yeah. So, and we'll be working on that. Any other thoughts on that?
You just to be clear, Roger, in the first ones we had were just a meeting and people could come and attend. The last one we separated
Yes.
because of the political aspect of it.
Legally, we have to do that.
We have to do that.
Yes.
And that may or may not be an issue, or it may or may not be of interest, depending on where we are with elections. So,
Yeah, well, I think, and you've got a good point. But it's
More to follow.
it's how we present it.
yeah, it's more to follow.
It's how we, how we put the article in the Star, talking about it, any other way we go about talking to people about it. That's what'll happen.
Well, there were political candidates at that time, so we
That's
had
right.
to separate
No,
them.
I
so-
don't, no, there won't be that way this time.
Yeah, so it may be just a general information
Right.
meeting and a general information, which is simpler.
We've had a couple of them, and my golly, the last one, I think we had over, I know we had at least representation from 35, and we had more than that people. There were some couples and whatnot, but 35 landowners. And that's a big part of
City.
Fitchburg.
Yep.
They represent, got to remember, the ag area alone is over, 11,000 acres. And to get a representative like that to come and listen, we want to offer that again.
Yep,
So,
you bet.
okay, anything else? Reports from,
Randy has
oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to comment as well. I think this would be a great location if we can manage it. I've had an opportunity to speak to Mark. It was a Chambers event that they held, and this would be a great location for the annual listening session. And I think we're all in agreement with that, but I did want to express my thoughts on it as well, that if we can manage this, I'm not sure what all is entailed, if it's the dollars or what, but this would be a great place for this venue. So, yeah.
I think we all agree. So we'll move ahead on that. Okay, a report from the department, anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly update the committee on redistricting. Randy mentioned it a bit, and I don't want to get into too much of a discussion. It's not on the agenda. But certainly I want to share where the information is on the web if folks want to look at it in more detail after the meeting. So we do have a web page up. Let me just find that quickly. Okay, so bear with me. So yeah, if you go to our city's webpage, and then you go to, you hover over government, and then departments, which is the city clerk department. That will take you to the city clerk's department webpage. And then on the left side here, you'll see redistricting. So you click on that, and that basically gives you the whole outline of process for redistricting, which we are nearing the end of that. And there is all the different map options that Randy talked about. Those have all been posted. The preferred option is map option 1AB. That will be presented to council, or council will discuss that. I believe it's November 2nd. Is that the correct date, Chad? Okay, yep. 5:30 PM, November 2nd. That will be a public hearing, so folks can certainly come and comment. And again, I don't want to get into all the nuances of the maps right now, as it's not on the agenda, but certainly I would encourage folks to look at that at your leisure. And certainly Randy was involved, I was involved. If folks have questions, I'd be happy to address any of those questions or comments. And the gist of it is District 4, which is this As Roger mentioned, the rural areas basically remained whole. It got pushed down a little bit on the western edge, or the eastern edge, excuse me. But other than that, it looks very similar to what it has been historically. And again, this is just a draft. This has not been adopted or approved yet. But certainly, will be in the next couple months.
Okay, anything else? Okay. Okay, Scott, have you got anything that you'd like to add at this time?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay. Well, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a
So
motion.
moved.
Second.
Hearing the motion and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 We are adjourned.